First up, I loved African stories. So there was a TV show back then. It was called Tales by Moonlight, and
Mm,
I think it came on. I don't know what day, maybe Saturday evenings or so. But I lived for those stories, man. Like those stories, like it was set in like a I think in a village anyways, with where a man comes by, the neighborhood kids come,
yeah.
and he tells these different stories, and I used to love those stories. Like I used to look forward to them very much. Well, little
Mm.
did I know I would write my own story like how many years later though. But
Hello there again. Welcome to another episode of Africans Abroad, the podcast. This is your host, Christopher Eves Ricks. Listen, for the first time on the podcast, I'm really excited because I am about to talk to a young man who is an author, a writer, and not just a writer, but an African children's book writer. That has me excited, really excited, as a father of two young African king and queen growing up. I'm super excited about this. I got to know about this brother through my wife. Y'all worked together for a period of time, I believe. And
correct.
just recently on Instagram, I got to see that he was releasing his first book on Amazon. So, of course, I had to have a conversation with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the next African Abroad on the Africans Abroad podcast is Mr. Teslim. I'm not sure about the last name, man, but just introduce yourself, and we're gonna get go ahead into that.
No,
But
not a
welcome,
problem.
welcome to the podcast, man. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me and taking the time out of your day. I do appreciate it. And
For
yes,
sure.
my name is Teslim Akindele. The E's sound like A's somewhat. That's where the trick is.
Akindele.
But correct, that was
I'm always
accurate.
excited when I got Nigerians on, because the names I love it.
Yeah,
I do not have an African name at all. Like I need to adopt one. Like
for sure. I'm sure
yeah,
Fiona has plenty for you
yeah,
too.
I'm sure. I'm
Anyways,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. Thank you for having me, as I said, and it's Tesla. So this is more of yes, my first book. It came about as a hobby first off. So I've been writing for a while actually, and I
Mm,
just thought, like why not do something for that reflects you, that reflects your background, that reflects I would say a niche that's not so popular, though you
mm,
wouldn't see so many African men as children's book authors too. I know there's a couple, there's some for sure, but
right.
there can never be too much, is what I'd always say. And
Mm,
every story needs to be heard. So even if it's from you, from anyone, from if you have a story, put it up because you don't know who's gonna impact one way or the other.
that's for
So
sure.
that's how this came about.
Mm. Well, that's that. I'm very much interested in hearing more about this. But as usually the podcast goes, I like to get a sense of the person behind what you're doing, right? And therefore, you already introduced yourself, Tislam, but say where you're from, and where you live, and we can just go on from there.
Correct, sure. So I'm originally from Lagos. Actually, I lived in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm originally from Ogun State, so Nigeria. That's a different state.
Yeah.
And that's where I'll say that's where I was built as a man,
Mm,
as a teenager. That's where I got all my values from. So I can never forget the motherland in that way. And then I took a chance. I moved to Canada. I currently reside in Manitoba, to be precise.
mm,
So it's been fun. Too cold though, but I mean, you can't complain.
I know. I
you
know.
know, but that's life is all about challenges anyway. So that was just one challenge. I thought give it a shot and see, and then that's how I got here. And
When,
also, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, when was that? When did you
So I
move?
moved 2017 February.
2017. Okay. Okay.
Correct. So it's been what? Oh, it's going to be 6 years next February
Yeah.
now. So it's been quite a bit. So
Huh.
But yeah, but most of my life anyways lived in Africa. So it's just less than a third or even less than a quarter of my life is here now. So
Yeah.
looking forward to how that turns out too.
Wonderful. How are you liking it so far? I mean, it's 6 years in the cold, one of the coldest places. In my opinion, I live in Norway, and it's cold here, but Manitoba is just, So how has that been working for you? You know.
It's been different, coming from the tropics too as well. Like you can imagine someone who's used to sunlight almost 365 days a
Hmm.
year, and then like I'll never forget the first day I landed. Like I stepped out of the airport and I ran back in because I couldn't like put into my mind what I was feeling on my skin because I landed in the middle of winter too, and that was
Oh
one thing I
man.
didn't think about.
Right.
I was just thinking about I'm trying to get here at a certain time and
Hmm.
get these goals achieved, and I just came and I'm like, whoa. But aside from that, though, from a professional standpoint, I'm not a full-time children's book author. This is more of a it's a
Hmm.
passion I just intend to own.
Yeah.
Professionally, it's been good for me. I came here, I got a degree, working in the project management field, so it's been good, is what I would say over since I've been here.
Okay. Nice. Project management. Nice, nice, nice. So, how come? Well, how did you get into writing? That's, uh, I mean, you say you do it as a hobby, and then it switched over to children's books. So, what kind of writing you've been doing, and how? First, how did you get into it, and then what kind of writing you've been doing so far?
Well, so that's a very good question. I know I don't think I have a particular easy way I'd say I got into writing though, but I would say it came out of first off, I when I was in college back home, not
Mm-hmm.
here now, back home, I was like the president of the student union anyway. So first off, I got to write a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, all of this, there's things in your childhood and your upbringing that sort of give you leans you towards a certain way. So first off, I love African stories. So there's a TV show back then. It was called Tales by Moonlight, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it came on. I don't know what day, maybe Saturday evenings or so. But I lived for those stories, man. Like those stories, like it was set in like a I think in a village anyways, with where a man comes by, the neighborhood kids come
Yeah.
and he tells these different stories. And I used to love those stories. Like I used to look forward to them very much. Well,
Mm-hmm.
little did I know I would write my own story like how many years later though, but I would say from a foundation standpoint, it started from there. And then with the kind of course I studied too, I studied architecture. There's a lot of research and stuff, and then we right into is there's the creative side, but there's also the delivery too. Like you
Mm-hmm.
might have the idea, but how do you put that onto
Presented.
paper?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, because people have writer's block and all that stuff. So I started writing first off on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
On my personal Instagram page, like many years ago, I just used to write stuff on, like emotions, politics, relationships. It was different though. Like I just started writing all that stuff. It'll be this one pager, like an image, but it's like four paragraphs anyway. So I used to do that consistently on Instagram, and it's funny. That's how I met my wife too, actually, because she used to
Really?
comment on those posts.
Ah. Ah. You slid. Somebody slid in the DMs.
Exactly. So,
Right.
but let's throw that in there. But yeah, I used to write a lot though, and then the reception from people, like the thing with me too is yes, you write though, but like you might be writing trash you don't know. Like people need to resonate with you and
Of
say, oh,
course.
this is good. If people had told me, man, yo, stop it, I'm like, I probably have found something else. But people were
Mm-hmm.
like, oh no, I connect to this, or no, I see what you're saying here.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved on when I moved here too as well. There's a student blog which I also wrote for too here, and that only just sort of made me think, okay, I think there's something here actually, although I stopped for a long time. So that was like 4 or 5 years ago because I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to, chase this professional life and paper and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say the epiphany I had is once I had a kid, and then I'm like, what do I want you to know? And I'm like, what, those stories I learned, I want you to connect to them too. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna start this, and not just for you, but there's if as you all know, there's been tons of immigration from Africa now
Mm-hmm.
too as well. So you want all these kids to have a story they can relate to. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's how I got here,
No,
anyways.
Awesome. I like it. I love that because I can totally relate when it comes to the storytelling part of things, or receiving storytelling, if I can put it that way. Both
Correct.
from um, when I was a kid, I had a really wild sense of imagination. I had to because I grew up in a war-torn country where
Ah,
I remember having television and all of that at a certain age, and then war broke out, and it was all taken away. Like no electricity, nothing for a couple of years, right? And
yeah.
the only thing I had, or we had, was radio and storytelling. And the older kids,
Wow.
yeah, the older kids would tell these stories, and I would, I just had a vivid imagination, and I would like trivialize it in my mind, you know. And it was all of these African tales that I loved. And fast forward a bit, me and my family moved to the Ivory Coast and then Ghana. I think it was the Ivory Coast, where I first got introduced to kids, African kids TV. You know, both when it comes to drama, live dramas, and then the what's it called, animation side of things, and I
Correct.
loved
Yeah.
it. I really loved it, especially anything that had to do with some sort of village settings and
Yeah.
kids within that playing outside. I so like when I got to check out the book, like it just took me right back. But there's a twist to it that I got to see, and I thought it was really awesome. And I'm just gonna go right into it. First, what's the name of the book? So
So the
let's
name.
just ease into this a bit. Yeah.
No, perfect. Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. So the name of the book is The Shy Boy and the Scary Tree.
Right.
Um, that's the name of the
Hmm.
book, and it's funny. I'll tell you how I came up with the name. I so what I was writing the book, because it's for kids too, and you know you're an adult, so sometimes you sort of have to come down to that level of understanding and say it's a kid reading, it's not an adult. So
For sure.
I
Yeah.
actually read it to a kid, and I'm like, "What do you think of this book?" And he came up with that name. So I have a family friend, so it's her son that
Hmm.
just gave me the name, and I'm like, you know what? That's perfect, and I just ran with it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really
Yeah,
nice. Yeah. That's the way to do it.
yeah, I know for sure.
But I got to take a quick look at it, and I thought it was good. We're not gonna go so much into it because people definitely need to buy it. Try to promote. This is what all of this is about. Try to get people's stories, and then find out what we're doing out here in the
Correct,
diaspora, and try to promote each other, right?
correct, correct.
So, but what the first thing I got out of this was you took us back to Africa. You took us to Nigeria, where you're from, the Yoruba tribe, and a village within a Yoruba village. If that's
That's
right.
correct.
Yeah,
Yes, that's accurate. Yeah,
yeah. However, I also got to realize that this was a modern village. Like I have
yeah,
not seen such you know, you see African village and villages, and it would you would recognize it as an African village. I did not
correct.
recognize the pictures as an African village until I was told it was an African village, and that just like I love what's behind what was the reason for that.
So there's a couple of reasons, I'll be honest with you, and it's you know what, you're the first person that caught on that, and you've got good attention to detail, and I appreciate that.
Mm,
That particular page, whatever page you discovered, that was actually a topic of discussion between me and my the illustrator that worked on the book.
mm-hmm,
So I had to actually send her like, yo, these images represent what I want, and to me it was twofold.
mm-hmm,
Um, Working here to move in here, not to deviate from the original question is, you know, people always had this image of Africa just being, you know, you know where I'm
for
going with
sure.
this anyways,
Yeah.
just being that. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, that exists, but I also wanted it to reflect where I came from to,
Mm,
like to a certain level, just staying true to the story though, because I felt like if I went back to the village, there's certain elements I might miss because I didn't really live in that particular, you know,
mm-hmm,
surrounding it anyway. So those images were to reflect it was more of a rural area where I, grew up
Yeah.
anyway. So it wasn't like the top echelon. It wasn't, the village either. So we're just somewhere in between.
Hmm.
So that was more to just have a different representation, because I feel like the world for the longest time just had like this poor representation in thinking you'd see all of that. Don't get me wrong, as I said, it's not bad, but it's also not it's not the way all of us see it too. Like I can connect to that. I've been to those areas, but I didn't grow up in that though. So I didn't want to be disingenuous and say,
Hmm.
oh, this is what,
Yeah.
I saw. But so this was just more of a reflection of my like my what my eyes saw growing up. So that's why I just made those illustrations look I don't know. I don't know. I don't know contemporary African architecture.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it has something to do with your architect background also. Um,
Yeah, I was very keen on that too as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. No, definitely. But how? And then it still had the African childhood. What's known to be African childhood is being outside playing
Correct.
and
Correct.
picking fruits and you climbing trees or whatever, you know. So I love
Correct.
that. You know, it wasn't it despite the fact, and I think it really represents what we're going towards,
Correct.
because I feel like what we are going to end up adopting best of both worlds. Yes, we want to advance. Yes, we want to become more of the West, more like the West. But we
Correct.
also see areas within the West that we should refrain from. You know, we should not adapt because it just takes us away from who we actually are. You know, so
That,
it just beautifully emerges what's African and what's Africa is going towards. You know, I really loved it, man. Really,
that
really do.
No, I appreciate that. That's a very valid point you make, man. Like, it's funny if you notice, there's no devices in the
No,
in the
no,
book,
no, it's not. Yeah,
but I tried to like just going back to our original point, and I think we shared that village storytelling, that
yeah.
that traditional, because I mean, as you can tell, like. The age it's we're in the age of technology, so everybody's just want to be on the device and
Hmm.
their phones, but we should get out more. So to be honest with you, when I was writing that, I would say that wasn't it came to mind, but the fact that you put it in that way and kids going out, that even gives it a stronger message anyway.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I love the way you've interpreted the book so far. Even I am learning from my book from you, so
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I loved it. So you know, my kids are gonna read it. I'm gonna read it to
Oh,
them, and that's for sure. That's for sure.
I I appreciate that.
Yeah. When is the actual release?
So the actual release is on Wednesday, September 28th.
Yeah.
um, at 12 p.m.
Hmm.
Central Standard Time.
Hmm.
I don't know what that time zone is going to be everywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's going to
North.
be like good thing with Amazon. It's all over. It's in Amazon,
Hmm.
Europe, Germany, the UK,
Yeah.
Norway, everywhere. So everyone
Okay.
can grab a
Okay.
copy on that day, and it's eternal. It's going to be on Amazon forever. So
Nice.
you
Nice.
know, yeah.
Definitely today. Well, we're doing this interview on Sunday, the Sunday before the release.
Correct.
This is probably going to be released in a week. It's kind of week or two.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely, I would be able to get the link from you to put on the description, so that
Yes.
everybody
Yes.
can be directed to go there and buy and purchase. And I just want to urge anybody that's watching here that before you pick up another book that you don't even know the face of the author, this dude right here, he's doing it, and your children need to have stories like this. I know my children need it. I hope yours do also. And yeah, let's just support. I think that's the main message here, is to support each other, support our craft, what we do. You know, that's where true growth is going to come from. True generational wealth and you know, the betterment of Africa. That's how it's gonna happen. So
That's accurate, man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what's the future for this? This is the first book, and I already see a lot of potential for it. What's the future for where this is going? You think?
So the good thing is, I would say there's been progress in diversity in children's books actually, and also representation is also where I'm going with this too. Is
Hmm.
there's tons of Black authors out there that are doing their thing, like either it's from the States,
Hmm.
even from back home, different places anyway. So but original stories like this, for me, there's tons. Like I'm thinking of the next two, three books already as I speak. I'll be honest with you. So I
Nice.
do plan on, you know, and if whoever reads this first book, you see that it's not just writing a book for entertainment too. There's values, like there's values you can ingrain in your kids from this. So it's all about raising that next generation, especially if they're in the West or even back home, and just having them have that connection. So I plan on, this is probably going to be a lifelong passion of mine.
Mm,
So this one the first. This is the first, but it wouldn't be the last for
for
sure.
sure.
And there's many more to come.
Nice, nice. I'm glad to hear that. Would you mind, if it's possible, to read just a line or two from the
Yeah,
book? Yeah,
for sure. I have the book here.
there.
I don't know if it's clear or not, though.
Come closer a bit. I think the blurry background stuff is doing something, but yeah.
Oh,
But
I see.
anyways,
Anyways.
I'm gonna post it anyway. So yeah.
Oh, okay. No, for sure. So, I'm just looking for the best passage here to read
Hmm.
without giving away too much.
So exactly.
Okay, so I think I'm just gonna give the page where I introduce his family, anyways. So here you go. So the name of this I can release anyways. The name of the boy in the story is Akin. So you
Hmm.
guys can read more about Akin in the book.
Yeah.
So Akin lived in Koka town, located in Nigeria, West Africa. The town was ruled by an Oba king. So Oba is the Yoruba word for king.
Hmm.
And the Oba ruled the town. So the town is occupied by a Yoruba tribe whose language also was also called Yoruba. So the Yoruba tribe, the language is also called the name of the tribe as well. So it's the same.
Right.
He lived with his mama, Bola, his baba, Ade, and his sister, Shola. Aki and Shola always went to the Oba's palace every Saturday to play in the Oba's garden. The garden had lots of trees, including Akin's favorite, the tropical almond fruit tree, which is a very popular tree back home. So that's a little sneak peek and a teaser there. So if you want to find out what happens, grab a
Yeah.
copy.
Yeah. Grab a copy. Grab a copy, yo. For sure, man. That is wonderful. Let me see. Let me see. We've talked about the book a bit, and we're gonna close this up quite soon. But usually, I have these standard questions that I ask all my guests on the podcast, as long as I have the time to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I call this this part of the questions. Is there a balance, right? And so I'm just gonna shoot with it. Would you give? How should I put it? The what? Okay. What are the challenges? Some of the challenges. Give one challenge that you have experience within your career or your life in where you live right now in Canada. One major challenge that you usually come across that you experience in getting it could be whatever doing what you need to do for yourself and your family.
No, that's an amazing question. And I one or two words come to mind: imposter syndrome.
Mm,
Uh, and I say that because, especially with my background educationally, anyways, when you move to a different country, like things are done different. First off, like it's a different. You might study architecture back home. You come here. I mean, the foundation is the same, but the terminologies, all that kind of stuff, it takes a while.
Mm,
But to keep this simple is there's times, especially when you're trying to grow in your career, you probably get like a job offer or you see an opportunity and you're like, am I ready for this? You second guess yourself
hmm
basically. And then you realize that if you never really take a bet on yourself or
hmm
take a leap of faith, anything, you'd never really know what you can achieve.
hmm
So I would say I struggled with it like the first 1 or 2 years when I came here, and then I realized, man, like I can really do anything I want to do, and then
Yeah.
just put myself in that position to win. So that's one thing I would say, and just believe in yourself, and I'm sure you can achieve whatever it is you can.
Mm,
If you plan properly, anyways, it's easy to say
yeah.
you can
Yeah.
achieve anything, though, but you do have to put
Yeah.
in the work,
For
get the
sure.
knowledge, all that stuff. So there's some background work you have to do, but
Mm,
anything is possible, is all I can say.
for sure. I like that imposter syndrome. That's the first time I got that from any guest. I was like, I'm stacking up on these answers, you know.
Oh yeah, I know for sure, for sure.
So let's switch it over to your, I call it what I'll call privileges that you have within what you are doing for yourself because you find yourself in Canada. So pretty much the opposite, challenges and now privileges or
Oh, like, oh, okay, like, oh, I see what you're saying. I
yeah.
think, funny enough, it might sound silly, but or simple is constant electricity.
I've got that from another Nigerian.
I like for most people, it's they take it for granted, man. But man, like, so not to reveal too much, but
Yeah.
there's times that I've been in hospitals back home where
Ooh, yeah.
mid procedure, the light goes off.
Yeah.
And I've been that person where like they have to patch you back up and you have to come back the next day.
Oh
So
man.
it might be, as I said, for most people, they might not be able to relate.
It
But
is.
that's one thing that, people don't understand how critical,
Yeah. Yeah.
power is. So when there's lights, it's life. There's a reason people said that. So
That is for real.
yeah, so no, that's one thing I would. I mean, there's a whole lot more, but I'm just keeping it simple,
Yeah.
anyways. But yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. I like I like that. I like that. I
yeah.
like that. Okay. The worst experience that you've had that you can recall that comes to mind since
In Ca-
within the
oh,
6 years you've been living
wow.
abroad.
So I'm very family oriented. I love family. Like
Hmm
I love seeing them. Like so, one thing even before I moved here, because I almost didn't come just
hmm
because of that reason. Though I
hmm
was more or less pushed out by my brother. He's like, get out of this country and just go see what's out there.
hmm
So I love being around family. So not being able to spend that time. And the reason I bring that is I lost a couple of people whereby I wish I'd been there before they
Oh,
left.
yeah.
So to experience those things here away from them is
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's one of the worst experiences you can ever have. So
Mm,
that's the one. It still relates to back home, funny enough, but I was here alone and
yeah.
I had to, grieve alone and all that kind of stuff. So I would say that's been my worst experience in
Oh,
the
yeah.
6 years here.
That's something I've thought about like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. So
Mm,
yeah, bit of a tough one, but either ways, life goes on. But still,
yeah. Yeah.
that's been my
I,
worst one.
I get that. I get that. Okay. So, second to the last question here. Your most memorable act of kindness that's been rendered towards you as a person.
Oh, that's been rendered towards me.
Yeah.
Huh. Does family count, or can it be
Oh,
strangers? Or
family counts.
um, well, there's too many to pick from, but I'll just try and pick. I'll just pick one. I'll take my immediate elder brother.
Mm-hmm,
He's someone like I can't really quantify how kind he can be. Like
mm-hmm,
I can't really say he did this, he's done too much. But for example, in me moving here, for instance, I that was never an idea that came from me.
mm-hmm,
He saw the potential in me and said, "Oh, you know what? I can see you. You can make it, man. So
mm-hmm.
you go ahead and do this for yourself." So he put all of this together and got me here. I'll be honest with you. So that's probably the kindest thing someone has done for me.
Yeah.
I
That's.
think. Yeah. So that's one of,
Mm-hmm,
there's a
mm-hmm.
whole lot, but that's the one that comes to mind right now.
For sure. For sure. Now, if you notice, there was four questions. So it was kind of like a That's why I call it "Is there a balance?" Because I know that we have real day to day challenges where we find ourselves. However, there's always, even at least in my experience, there's always tons of reasons to be more positive and you know, because of wonderful things we've experienced too along the way. So I just like to,
That's
balance it up a bit. So last question, man. What are three
yeah.
phrases that you would use to words or phrases you would use to sum up your life so far?
Ha! Your questions are intense, man. I love these questions. They make you think.
Yeah,
Woo.
it's
Oh,
and that's the thing.
oh,
It's different for everybody because it's it catches you off a bit off guard.
cor- correct,
Yeah,
correct. I like that. And you get the raw answers too. You don't get some
correct,
practiced or
correct.
refined. Okay, so three that sums up my life. I would say, uh, um, I think I would say blessed.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm immensely blessed, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't want to take, there's a whole lot more we want to achieve in this world, though. But like, I don't take the little things for granted, man.
For
The
sure.
family, God has blessed me with the
Mm-hmm.
wife, the kid,
Mm-hmm.
everyone, my mom, my dad, my brothers, my sisters. So I don't take that in any way for granted because that's my support system right there. So that's one powerful one I would use.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the second one to describe my life is just going back to the book is I think I'm tenacious too. Like if I think it, I do it. Like I think life is too short for you to not like dumb down things you know you can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
All out of fear of thinking of what people say or whatever. Like don't be concerned. Just go out there and just smash your goal. So
Yeah.
I'll use tenacious as well. And
Yeah.
the third I'll use is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I like to make people laugh
Mm-hmm.
as much as I can. Fun in every way. In
Mm-hmm.
college, I love to go out, hang out, go to the beach, and now I love to play soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Competitively, like in competition, still
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
like semi pros and everything. So I'll just capture all of that on the fun. So that's how I
Nice.
describe that.
Wow. Wonderful, man. Listen,
Yeah,
Teslam, it's been a pleasure to speak with you in this way. I got to we just before we started the interview just mentioned that I got to see you briefly. I even forgot that I got to see you
correct.
this summer in Winnipeg.
Yes,
And but
yes,
it's just to show, you see people, you get to pass them, and just do not, have deeper conversations and know what the person is about. Really awesome having this conversation with you, and I'm gonna keep up. I got you on Instagram. I'm gonna post all what I need to post here, and yeah, man, you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Yeah,
no, thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for having me on your platform. I don't take it for granted, and I'm happy there's a platform like this that recognizes people all over the world and showcasing what they're doing. So I only hope for greater heights for you as well and all that you do and your family.
for sure.
Sending good energy your way. As I said, this is an important platform to have. Is all I can say. And I don't take it for granted you having me and showcasing my book on here too as well. And thank you very much for the deep like some of the questions you asked me. I'm probably gonna still ponder on after anyways, but thank you very much for this conversation. I really do appreciate it as well.
Wonderful, man. All right, I appreciate it too. All right, folks. That's until next time. This was the episode for now. Thank you for watching.